Yes, we've been waiting, as you know, Mayor, for information from the Isle of Wight Council for just over 12 months now about their proposals with the new contract. We now have at least some of that information, and that has confirmed that these two aspects covered in sections 2 and 3 of this report are as we anticipated them to be. So, with Ventnor Park, I've done a bit of history here, mainly for the benefit of members who joined the council since the consultation took place, just to be clear that certainly as far as I'm concerned, consultation has been done in respect of the need to increase the preset significantly in order to make up the difference between what the Isle of Wight Council is proposing to do with the park under its new contract from the 1st of January, which essentially is to empty bins and to litter pick around the bins. And that's the sole contribution financially they feel able to make from the 1st of January onwards. We had in the past worked on the assumption, based on the figures they gave for their previous contract, that Ventnor Park cost a total of $38,000 to maintain the standards that the town has become used to. In the event, that is slightly less than anticipated, and the gap, as you can see from here, is £24,000 a year. And as you'll have picked up from the previous paragraph, there's a provision of £7,500 already in the existing budget. But if the Town Council wants to carry through with its commitment to maintain the park as the local treasure, well, the island treasure that it has become, the difference will need to be incorporated into next year's precept. As I say, I think the support from the town, for those who were present at that consultation meeting, will know it was very strong. And I've just summarised the results of the groups who discussed it. There were over 100 residents participating in that, and there was no doubt that would be supported. And that's the reason why the 7,500 is already in the budget, because we had expected the new contract from the Isle of Wight Council to start in 2019, not in 2020. So we provided for the first quarter because their contract starts on the 1st of January. So the cost of the summer bedding, which is about 7,500, and for next year that needs to be purchased before Christmas, so we're told is already covered by the existing budget provision. But there is a need to go further if you want to keep it as it is, and you'd be very brave not to. In section 3 briefly, and I'll shut up after that, the Town Council, as members I think mainly know, took on responsibility for mainly grass cutting in 18, 17 or 19, somewhere in that range of areas of local grass which needed to be cut. And the Town Council's decision at that time, when the Isle of Wight Council made its initial cuts, was that it wouldn't take up the option of paying the Isle of Wight Council to continue to do it, but that the Town Council would have its own contract. And that was done by a tender process with three island-based contractors, and that finished up being placed with John O'Connor, who will remain, as the report says, as the Isle of Wight Council's contractor from 1st of January next year. The Isle of Wight Council is content to leave that arrangement in place. It leaves the Town Council with a decision to make, because the Assets and Services Group had been intending to re-tender the existing contract with John O'Connor, but it's all a touch late to do it. And the recommendation, which you'll see, is that the Assets and Services Group discuss with John Connor a 1-year extension of the current contract with a view to carrying out a tendering process for the following 12 months. I should have added, before I stop, that the Town Council's position on Ventnor Park was that the Town Council would take up the financial slack, provided it had control over the park itself, and that the officer responsible for this has indicated that it will be possible to negotiate and agree a lease to the Town Council from the Isle of Wight Council for the park, initially for a 5-year term to match the period of their new contract. I can stop now, can't I?
You can if you wish, David. Thank you very much. Very detailed and concise. Brian and Jim really have been doing most of the legwork on the grounds maintenance. So, Brian,
there's one thing we need to look at. We need to see the specification in which they've priced the Isle of Wight Council have asked their contractors to price. We've got to make sure that that ties in with the bespoke services that we want from the Ventnor Town Council. I mean, we've got wildflower areas now, and we've got certain areas which are not standard. So we're going to have to compare the two to make sure we've got like for like before we actually extend this contract. But I'm not envisaging great problems, but we haven't seen the areas that Connors have quoted on. They've really taken it to the power.
And
caused us a bit of a problem, really.
Not for the first time, Brian.
Councillor, my understanding is that the existing contract between the Town Council and John O'Connor will be extended on the basis of the current costings, with any necessary amendments such as that, an inflation uplift and any amendments for areas which we've now withdrawn. But I personally wouldn't be looking to their council prices for the next 12 months.
Have we got John O'Connor's agreement that, having tendered for the Isle of Wight Council, he is happy to work for us at our prices?
We haven't done anything at all because we only learned last week.
No, so that's one of the things that will be sorted.
It's on the agenda for the Assets and Services.
Well, we're happy with John O'Connor's general standard of operation, so I'm pleased really that we've not had to change to another contractor.
Good. So that's on his benefit. Jeremy, do you want to add anything before I open it up?
No, sorry. Councillor Luke has done practically all the work on it recently, so I consider him as the best guy.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, members. Anything further to add?
A quick Google reveals that the most expensive Husqvarna automated lawn mowers £4.5 grand, and it works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the dark and the rain and the unpleasantness. It seems that if we are
who's watching it,
and if you try and nick it, the alarm goes off and it won't work. So like your phone, there are automated solutions that might be worth looking at if we're talking about spending lots of public money on grass cutting. I haven't hoovered my house in 3.5 years. I just press a button and it can't be stolen. Okay, so when we tender for something, we do proper public procurement. If we just put a clause in there, have a look at automated options. If it's unsuitable for our terrain, if it's unsuitable, none of the contractors want to engage. Fine, but at least we tried.
Councillor Rowland.
I'm just trying to work out the actual total cost here. I mean, is it 26,000 and 24, or two typing into each other?
No, the 26,000 is for the 18 grassed areas. The 24 would be solely for Ventnor Park.
So it's over 50,000 total.
Around the week.
Which then, I mean, I think the automated options, I mean, we're actually getting into quite chunky amounts of money now.
It just needs exploring.
Yes,
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this develops, because I think we're pretty certainly around this table, and as far as our constituents are concerned, and as you alluded to, Clark, you know, our residents look upon the park as something special. And if it was to become like, you know, like one of the Newport public toilets or something like that, it wouldn't go down very well at all. We really need to defend it for all it's worth. But having said that, and certainly in my discussions with the leader and the deputy leader, and I was there very well aware of the seriousness with which we view it. So, and I think they're sort of on board as much as they can be. But all of these things are going to be, whether other councils like it or not, are going to be something that we're going to have to look at very seriously. I think we have been ahead of the game here at Ventnor, the way we've dealt with this.
Yes, the only other one I know about is Ride, who do contribute significantly to the cost of grounds maintenance.
Yeah, they do, and they've similarly got quite substantial assets as far as compared to other councils as far as that goes. Okay, thank you. So, members are recommended to agree to fund the additional grounds maintenance works required to retain the park's current high standards from the precept 2020/21 at the anticipated level of 24k a year, subject to agreement on a lease of the park and the Isle of Wight Council for a period of at least 5 years. And 2, to request John O'Connor to agree a 1-year extension of the Town Council's existing contract for grounds maintenance on the basis of an inflation-linked increase. That will move it, please. Councillor Toogood, second that. Councillor Milford, all those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Beach safety. What can we discuss?
I normally provide a report at the start of the year on the season's activity for beach safety, just to give some indication of the extent of its engagement with activities on the beach. And you can see this year's list in section 2 of what our maintenance manager Brian Roberts, and assisted by some 3 volunteers from time to time, have been able to offer to visitors and residents, given the dangers of that beach, because it's not one of the safest, as you're well aware. The project was slightly, 10% over budget, but internal discussions amongst staff have brought us to the point where we don't think it's sustainable at the current level, on the current basis. I'll briefly again summarise the reasons there. The demand on Brian Roberts is very substantial indeed. He's doing well over his hours without reclaiming the pay back for it. And the volunteers, in particular, Gavin, who's been there for years now, several years. Since the beginning. Several years now, and so the recommendation from the staff involved with this project is that we provide some additional trained input, at least for the period from 1st of June to 30th September. Of a predicted cost that's based on the living wage, 2,380. That's the living wage, which is the council's position. They won't pay less unless there are very exceptional circumstances, and that's not the same as the national minimum wage. It's higher than that, at £9.30 at present an hour. Happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you, David. I just had one there. What do we have a cost for the training, provided we agree to the extra member of staff? Is there a rentable cost for providing training, or is that
he's
something that's ongoing?
First aid qualified, which is the only training we provide in the bank.
Okay, well that answers the question I had.
It does, yeah.
I think Gavin Seagood knows the project well.
Yes, I do. He does a fantastic job, and he's on the go all the time. There's no slack hours, not really. You know, you might find the odd one on a wet day, but That's still pretty, and he works more time than he should do.
Yeah.
He stays like later than he's paid for, and he's very early in the morning than he's paid for. So if we've got someone in mind, I think we should progress with it. Personally, I do.
Well, in the realms of public safety, Jim, I don't think we
Yeah,
can afford not
yeah.
to.
There's a bit concerned dog bites. That's sort of a bit worrying, isn't it? I'm surprised at that really in this day and age. But we do have a lot of dog problems on Ventnor, seafront. Dogs not on leads, etc. We have a lot of dogs in Ventnor, apparently.
Yes.
We do. It's amazing. We've got big dogs walking on that seafront with no leads, which is illegal. We know it, don't we? Okay, but he does work damn hard down there. He does work a lot of hours he's not paid for.
The problem there is, Jim, I think most of us would agree, is the implementation of the bylaws, because you know it's like when we're talking about parking on the high street, the Pier Street, things like that. It's only as good as the people who are looking after it. You know? And if you don't have the manpower, then it's a hell of a job to try and do.
I'm always quite surprised that traffic wardens don't take up the road, whereas dog wardens. It's quite. They're used to dealing with difficult public, aren't they? And they're around the town all the time.
Yeah. My impression is generally that dog owners are very good, unlike these cat owners that you find around the place, so that the cats run into cars and all sorts.
Cat stays
Especially when you're
indoors.
trying to drive safely up Melbourne Road.
My cat stays indoors.
But no, generally, you know, I spend a lot of time down there. It doesn't. Just to me, I'm just anecdotally saying that
There was a nasty dog mess outside the post office this morning. I got guys. It's been there for 2 days. Or kicked them aside there. But perhaps it'd be a suggestion for traffic wardens to take on that role.
Well, even down my road, you know, Clarence Road, and there's a cul-de-sac. You quite often get it on there.
Yeah.
So I mean, somebody. Who do you blame? There are loads of dogs on the front of it, unless you're cut and twitch, and it's practically impossible for the police.
Yeah, thank you.
We'd like to, but no. It's, I don't think we have any choice in that. Steve, did you want to say something?
No.
Yeah.
Just that it's been great to have volunteers down there. Yeah.
Oh,
it's superb. And giving them extra support is in some way taking a load off them and thanking them. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. So we better formalise this arrangement then, do it.
Well, that's what the recommendation is asking.
Yeah. So the Town Council is recommended to agree the employment of an additional temporary part-time staff member for 2 days a week from 1st of June through the 30th of September at a predicted cost of £2,380. That's what will then be the current. Anyway, I will do that myself. Could I have a second? Council $50 in favour. Thank you very much. Ventnor Central, our old buddy. I have to say this depresses me now. I was really excited, as I think I said at our service meeting that I was at, that this was something that was going to be really good for the town of Croatia. It seems to have hit a big stone in the middle of the road and fell falling over on its face. David, do you want to?
Yes, Chairman. I mean, what's even more depressing, and I share the Mayor's view entirely, obviously, but what's even more depressing is that the view from the Isle of Wight Council's Housing Delivery Officer and Ashley Curzon is that if this scheme can't be funded, then brownfield social housing won't work anywhere on the island. That's a really serious matter, given the existing targets and certainly given the existing need. But the reality is that the Isle of Wight Council also appears to be drawing back from the project, given the quotation from Dawn Lane's email I provided you with there, that there is now no provision for repairs on the library. I think Councillor Mack will confirm that for the last 2.5 years we've been assured that 50,000 maintenance provision for the library was in place and would stay there. But that's been withdrawn, and they have clearly downgraded their priority in respect to the library itself. So that's also quite worrying. But their position is very clear, it's not going to change, that mainly that if the town council is willing to borrow £1 million and take the whole amount of the risk of the project, then it can go ahead, otherwise it can't. And Jason Mack and I have indicated that we don't believe the town council is likely to do those things, but we haven't made the decision clearly. So
it's very disappointing, Carl, because at the outset, in our original discussions around the library and the relocation of the library and the fact that Ventnor Library managed to be saved, and on top of that, it looked as though we might find a new venue for a new library and everything else. And Isle of Wight Council seemed to be that time, on board with us. And over the last 6 months or so, that seems to have come to a stumbling halt. I don't know why, bearing in mind what the Parker said about brownfield sites and building. This would have been an ideal situation as far as you're concerned, given us things that Ventnor, especially in Ventnor Central, which is an extremely deprived area, very, very sorely needs. But we can't, and I don't think we're in a position to take the begging bowl to the public building watch board for £1 million in remedies. I just don't think we could stand it. The only other alternative is for change of mind from Isle of Wight Council, but we hope to have a meeting before Christmas. We're agitating, and I mean agitating quite strongly for that, and of course we'll be talking about this again, but time is running out. Yeah. Anybody would like to add anything, please feel free.
If you go back to the original design we spoke about, I looked at costs, and with rising costs and problems, you could be looking at a £2 million development now. So I reckon it's going to end up as that. It's quite scary, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're 1.9. I think is probably where we are at the minute.
Yeah, and with rising costs at 3% a year.
Yeah. Yes.
Put it off the ground, you hit a few problems. You're talking 2 million.
Yeah. That's probably the problem with it. In a nutshell.
Anybody else?
It is disappointing. But, what is the next question? Because there is lots of potential and a cost in that building, but that would be a shame to do nothing.
Well, the report, as you know, Councillor, goes on to acknowledge that there are other options that may be worth exploring, and Councillor McCauley in particular has already raised one area that's well worth exploring, and there are others as well which are indicated in section B of that report, and there are other areas too that we might look at, but they all require significant amount of work, which is why the recommendation asks for your authorisation of the staff time it takes, because you won't get obviously $500,000 or more out of the lottery without a lot of work. So we do have a case, clearly, as the Mayor indicated earlier. That building's in the centre, pretty much in the centre of the third most deprived area on the island, and is within the 10% most deprived nationally, and that provides a very strong foundation. And if the Isle of Wight Council is or could be persuaded to be supportive of the developments in relation to the library, that would strengthen any funding application that was put together. So there are alternatives. I agree with Councillor Logan and Councillor McCauley They just need some work, and we're prepared to do that. But I just thought we should do it with your permission rather than just run off on our own.
We're not down yet, certainly. I mean, we're not that kind of council. And I would, speaking for myself and for the majority around the table, I would say that, you know, that we will do our utmost to make sure some sort of development goes forward, especially including the library. I think it's... Jamie, do you want to speak to this? Do you want to keep your powder dry?
I don't have any powder particularly. I mean, I have done a wee bit of research, but I just agree with your last tenant there. But I mean, it's sad that we've reached the end. It feels like it. We haven't made the recommendation yet, but it's sad that we've reached the end of that because a lot of work put into it. There's a lot of goodwill we thought flowing in certain areas that turned out perhaps not to be quite as we understood it. But the idea of saving the library and doing something valuable with that building and or that space even, I still think is a goer, you know. And if we wipe the slate clean after tonight and start afresh, look at the new eyes, then I'm pretty sure between us all, not just us in this room, but you know, other people in the town. We'll come up with something, and we'll do something for them.
Good. Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, I've come into this pretty late in the day, and I understand that the £1 million is the full cost of the project. We need to borrow a grant, which is actually like free money on top of it. And it does bode well at all, does it? That a project, a sort of proposal like this can't break even. And obviously, we put 70,000 in principle. Can I just ask a question on the cash flow? You say it's negative until year 22. Does that mean that it'd be several years beyond that before we'd actually recover all your negative cash flows and probably break even about year 40 or something? Yeah.
Year 40 is.
It is,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not even kind of, we get to year 22 and we're cutting our losses. We'd have to go much almost, you know.
Yes, they say, as Councillor Matt says, that the project, they've done a full project profile on some magic software that produces pages and pages of figures, including a cash flow. And they say, don't they, Jason, that it pays for itself over the 40 years.
That's some forecasting. No, things are going to be like in 40
That's a hell of a risk for a council this size to borrow £1 million with that.
Yeah, and that's if nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, and that's right.
Given the town council's commitment to a new toilet and probably to some changes to the town centre, the maximum loan available from PWRB for town and parish councils is normally £500,000 a year. So if you did go for the £1 million, you could borrow over 2 years, £1 million, but you couldn't borrow anything else.
The irony, of course, is that Isle of Wight Council, according to Stuart Hutchison, has got about 60 million lying around waiting for investment, but they can't find anywhere in Isle of Wight to invest. Certainly for the kind of return that they're looking for, and I don't think they're looking at 40 years, which is a shame. But there is a certain irony in that the council has got money available for investment, but not for us. So, but I agree with, and I think we're all agreed down the table, Jamie, that and Steve, that it's something that we're not going to let lie, and I'm sure the Assets Service Working Group and other groups within the council will be very active in the new year, trying to find alternative proposals to bring forward to the council over time. But I think it's well known now that we've been looking at this, so I think, especially with regard to local people and businesses, Jamie, we ought to encourage them, ask them, what do you want, from this. I'm sure they'll be buzzing with ideas about it, but it's a huge, building, and not just the building, as you say, but the space itself lends itself to all sorts of things. There must be something really that we can do with it. And I very much myself, it's an old cliche, but it's the social housing, or what we used to call housing at one stage. Isn't it funny? You go around all the big estates, even in Yarmouth and Freshwater, Newport, and all St Margaret's Glade, it all says written into the brickwork as Isle of Wight Council. It was all there to be proper council housing, and anyway, that's a different story.
You might have a change of government, that might change along the time somewhere. But I think also it's sad the social housing element didn't work there, and as we've said, the figures don't stack, and it can't happen anywhere. There's money for community housing. There might be a few huts out West White somewhere. That's what it might come down to, which would be a shame because the money will go back to government and probably not come back. But let's hope that doesn't change. But I think that always the issue about Ventnor Central was the relocation of the library. So I think if we don't go away from that fact, that is still something that we would like to do. It's certainly something that the Friends of Ventnor Library will still hold us to, and I look forward to the next partnership meeting with them to tell them that we failed once again. But it always was written. We had one officer at Isle of Wight Council who, when we came up with this proposal, said, "Do you know what? This is great. Everyone wants it, so it won't work." So there we are. That's his tenant. So.
What a way to work. Okay, so the recommendation. Members are recommended to inform the Isle of Wight Council that the Town Council is not in a position to borrow the £1 million and find as necessary to progress the current project with the development of the old youth club, i.e. Ventnor Central, and two, to authorise the staff team to explore these alternative proposals to establish which of them may be worth taking to a detailed project stage, and to report to a future Town Council meeting accordingly. And of course that includes all members present here. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Mack, second. Councillor Logan. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. David, the Parks report. No, you in your own title. Thank you.
Members are well aware the function of this report is to pass on information that I think is useful for you to know, but doesn't require decision making. So we wanted to record with you the retirement of someone you may or may not know called Mike Wood, who has every day for 30 years been trudging up the coast to take readings from the weather centre. It's an absolutely amazing commitment. The Town Council pays him, I inherited this, it wasn't well before my time, and the Town Council has continued to pay him £600 a year for that work. He sends the readings on to the National Met Office and provides us with a brief report on summary, as you may know, each month of the weather patterns for the period. He's even found a replacement for himself. Chris Watts will take over from the 1st of January. With your permission, councillors, we'd like to send him a formal letter of thanks for amazing service. Really.
Absolutely.
First aid course has been run again. Alison arranges these with other people from time to time to make sure there are suitably qualified people in and around the work that gets done. And thanks to the Isle of Wight Council, to the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service for delivering those, and for Tony McCarthy for doing the organisation. A new service at the Green Room in Section 3, the diabetic eye screening service, had to move from its previous base and is now with us. They had their first session in November, and we'll be repeating that 1 week every 3 or 4 months. Christmas tree successfully up. Thanks to Morgan and Brian for the work in making sure that happened successfully. South White Parish's Health and Wellbeing Forum continues. It's been going for 3 years, Jason. I think. A remarkable success. One of the few I can identify as being due to my life, a full life, Mr. Mayor, but it's a useful legacy, and as you can see, taken seriously enough for Maggie Oldham, that she'd be kind enough to come together with the Trust Chair, Vaughan Thomas. You're aware of the additional youth work funding from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, giving us an extra evening a week for 32 weeks, which is very good. As the Mayor said earlier, he and I went to Westridge for a couple of hours on Wednesday evening last week to receive a very useful presentation from John Metcalf, Chief Executive of the Council, together with Dave Stewart, the leader, and Stuart Hutchinson, deputy leader. I don't think we've learned a great deal because generally this council has been very well informed about the issues of the Isle of Wight Council's budget, not least because, along with others, we've been picking up some of the pieces along the way. But it was a useful session. And the meetings of the working groups. That's really done. Thank you very much.
Would you like to question McCarthy on his activities, his writings, his musings?
Something else altogether.
No? Thank you very much, David. Right, I'm afraid for members of the public watching online, we're going to go to closed session now because we're going to discuss staffing matters which are covered by statute, and we're not allowed to discuss them in public. But just at this point, I'd like to thank the interested members, and there are a few of you who do look in on our meetings every month. So thank you very much, and I hope you find it informative and helpful doing that. So we now will have to exclude public and